Hey there, it's Susie here. Growing a 6 and 7 figure business, well, it takes doing certain things in your business. But it's not just about the marketing strategies and the marketing tactics and whether you have a membership or whether you know how to use lead pages or some other funky tool. Here's what I found is that a lot of success and growing that 6 and 7 figure business comes down to three disciplines that really help us rewire what success means and how we get there. And if we want to move from having a roller coaster type of cash flow to a more reliable revenue, to having a business where we are always out of time and feeling sucked dry and really burnt out, to a business where it's kind of designed to fit the lifestyle that we want. And if we want to get past the mindsets that might be keeping us where we are right now in our business, there are three particular areas that I want to talk about today. I call them the three reflections, and I've invited someone who I have so much admiration for, a business owner who over the last few years have really made big changes, pivotal changes in her business that allow her to now have a more ideal business for herself and her lifestyle and her family than she did just a few years ago. And we're going to be talking about these three disciplines, these three principles that she's put in place and what that looks like for her as she's grown her 6 and 7 figure business. Now, if you've just joined us and you are here live, please go ahead and say hello and do ask questions as you go along or comment. And if you are watching the replay, then do have a look around this page, because there'll be details of how you can get in touch with me, how you can get a copy of the three reflections, which is a brand new audio series we've created, and how you can get in touch with my very special guest. My special guest is the wonderful Amy Geach from Maida Learning. Let's bring her on. Hello, hello.
Hi, Susie.
It's so lovely to have you here.
It's good to be here. It's always good to be with you.
It's always good to be with you. And in fact, when you first came on and we were just preparing behind the scenes, I squealed really loudly. Luckily, you couldn't hear me and the audio wasn't working at that point. But I squealed because I haven't seen you for a little while.
Yeah,
And
it's been a while.
it's been a while, and I adore you so much. And you gave me a little bit of an update where things are at with Maida Learning and the new changes you're making. But more than that, we got to touch base about how things are different for you now than they were before. So before we dive into that, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, who your ideal client is, and what business looks like for you.
Yeah, great. So I am an allied health professional. I trained as an occupational therapist, and I moved into that traditional role of being a therapist and having my own practice. In 2014, I definitely felt that there must have been more allied health practice owners out there like me who were just feeling this struggle with running a business and working in the business at the same time. So I developed Maida Learning, which helps allied health practice owners to confidently navigate the business space and grow a business that is sustainable for them and successful for the things that they want to do in life, with more joy and less overwhelm. And we do that through our membership at Maida Learning, and also through our mentoring packages and our online courses and events. So I love that space. I love being in the community that we have created. And it's come off the back of my experience in running private practices myself. I've got one in New South Wales and one in Tassie. And so I take a lot of the knowledge I've got from, running my own business and can apply that into my membership. So that's what I do.
You make a really good point, because we can be really great at what we do. We can be a fabulous technician, but when it comes to running a business, that's a totally different thing, because we're not only wearing the hat of being someone who can help someone with, in your instance, an injury or something going on with their body or specifically their hands, but also getting new clients, managing staff, having great systems, all those things. And so I love watching you not only grow your own practices, and like you said, you've had lots of practice through your own experiences, but also now relating that to other people who can really fast track their own growth, because you've already made the mistakes, you've already developed the systems, you know how to do the things that they are perhaps struggling to do. Now, so you have had multiple businesses, but at some point you were a solopreneur, and the person doing the everything. What had to change about your thinking for you to make that shift from solopreneur to someone who's grown and scaled multiple teams?
One of the biggest things that I struggled with for a long time, Susie, was forgetting that I had choices. and almost fell into this learned helplessness in my business that, oh, well, I have to do it this way, or I don't really have a choice to say no to that or yes to this, because this is how a practice runs, or this is how business looks, and this is just what I have to do. I just have to get in and work really hard, and that's how it's going to be successful. So
Right.
I think relearning about having a choice, because if I'm not making choices in my business about how I want it to be, I was just letting other people make those choices for me, and I ended up in a situation where I didn't particularly love the direction the business was going in for that reason, and it took me a lot of courage to, really settle into the fact that I can change this. I can make a choice. I can craft this business exactly how I want it to be. And once I got on top of that, then things started to shift. And one of the other really big mindset shifts for me is definitely being brought up to work hard and have a really good work ethic. And I think a lot of people like similar have felt the same. And I just learnt this pattern of busyness. I got into a busy habit, and I didn't know what it looked like on the other side of that. So it was really hard for me to make changes early on as a solopreneur, because that was a space I was so used to. I didn't know something to compare that to. So I'd hear things like, you need to do this or doing this, and I'm like, well, I can't because I'm just busy. And so I think that was a big leap for me, and probably my biggest mindset change is to unlearn what busy kind of looked like, and to take the success away from that, like to kind of separate them, that my success as a business owner isn't linked with how hard I'm working, how many hours I'm doing, that they need to be separated. So that was a massive mind shift for me.
That is a bit of a mic drop moment, because I see it every single day. I see it in myself. The harder I work, the more successful I can be. If I don't work as hard, how am I supposed to get those goals? And having those two things hooked up like that is a little unhealthy, but it really does take shifting our thinking to, I don't have to be in the weeds all the time. That's a term that you and I have used before. We've had conversations about, if you can imagine being down there in the weeds instead of being above, being able to see how things work and being able to see the machinations of, oh, when I do this, this happens. And we're out in the busyness, and the busyness is where the burnout happens. It's where the overwhelm happens. It's where the progress is actually slowed down, because we are not perhaps focused on the things that we need to be in the business, which brings me to this idea of doing what we do in our business, because busyness is about busyness, doing rather than designing our business. And so what are some of the things that you change about what you do in a day-to-day in your business, as much as possible? And I know sometimes it can be, one step forwards and two steps back and then another step forward. But what do you do now that's different to when you had a business that was less ideal?
Yeah. So I definitely have buffers in my week, and that's something I never used to have when I was a solopreneur. It was just like
tell
go,
us
go,
about
go,
that.
go. Yeah. So I wouldn't leave space between meetings. I would go straight from treating into a meeting, back to treating, race home at the end of the day, not having finished what I was needed to finish that day. Even if I was traveling, I would put any buffers in for things to go wrong. So then when things did go wrong, that just ate into the nighttime. When I was supposed to be with my kids, I would then be catching up in the nighttime. So now I put buffers and space, not only in my week, but in, like, if I break the year down into quarters, I put that into my quarters as well. So have time away by myself for planning, which is major, breakthrough for me. I never used to do any planning, just make decisions on the go. But now it's a lot more strategic around planning and specific questions I ask myself when I do those planning sessions.
So you actually take yourself out of the business to plan, and you do that in a systematic, regular way. Tell us about that. So is that like a physically take myself away from family and friends, or how does that work?
Yeah, physically go away. And that's one thing I find it really hard to plan when I'm in my normal environment, because there's all the
Same.
doing things laying around that I think,
Mm.
oh, well, I'll just do that quickly. So what I've learned to do now is take myself completely away to somewhere nice that kind of is inspiring. So recently I
Mm.
went and stayed at the beach, and I'd go for 2 nights and have I've got a kind of a set routine of what I do now, and I make sure I've got everything done before I go, so I'm not in any kind of overwhelm or thinking about
Mm.
other things. And then I follow this kind of strategic pattern where I'm asking myself, how is the business now? And what does it look like now? What's that like compared to what I was wanting? So reflecting back on where I'm kind of heading based on what I was wanting. And then I'm asking questions like, what's working for you? What isn't working? And what's coming up in the future. So that's kind of the
Mm.
system I follow. I find it really helpful to identify those kind of 4 things. Where am I compared to where thought I would be? What's working? What's not working? Where do I need to go coming up?
I love the
I find it really
simplicity of
good.
it because it's
Mm,
actually it's simple, but it's very deep, and each one of those is gonna
yeah.
give you insights into what the next steps are, and I'm with
Mm,
you. Sometimes we need to physically move away from that same desk, that same background, the same noise, the same
yeah.
whatever it is that is around us, that
Mm,
same thing that's gonna distract us and put us straight back into busy mode. So I really appreciate that, and,
mm,
I, am about actually next week, I'm going away for a week to spend a week sort of just decompressing, but also planning
yeah.
for a lot of the new year. And it does take, for me, it's that new environment, the being able to do a bit of work, stop, go and take myself for a walk, come back, continue without the usual phone calls or interruptions, etc.
Yeah.
I want to talk about mindset. Now, you started talking about mindset earlier, and I feel
Mm,
like that one of the biggest things and one of the um, biggest reflections we can have is what is going on in my mindset, what is going on in my thinking, what is going on in my doing, what I'm doing every day, which we just spoke about, but also what is it that is tripping me up that is a mindset issue. It could be with my confidence, it could be my ability to reach for bigger goals, it could be my resilience, it could be the grittiness. As someone who has grown multiple 6, 7 figure businesses,
mm,
what's gone on for you that you've had to sort of shift around your mindset?
mm. A lot. um, definitely not letting little blows that might happen along the journey knock me back. And
Mm.
I definitely used to be like that in the past when I was a solopreneur. If something little went wrong, I would agonize over it. I would replay it in my mind. What should I have done better? Yeah, don't do that again. That was silly. So I definitely have grown a lot in terms of how I approach things, and yeah, just not beating myself up as
Stuff up.
much. And I think that comes from understanding and appreciating in my mind the journey more, rather than just getting to an outcome. And once and I do need to keep reminding myself of that. I'll often go, I'm not where I want to be, as quick as I wanted to be there,
Mm,
or this didn't go
mm.
as well as what I thought. But the process of getting there isn't necessarily a failure or anything that's gone wrong. It's just part of
Right.
that
It's just part of that
process.
process.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. I was talking to you earlier again before we came online, and we were talking about money, and I was saying to you that when like in my first 6 months of doing business, I lost $50,000, which these
Mm,
days it's a lot of money, but 20 something years ago when it happened, it took us 2 years sort of to crawl out of that hole. And
yeah.
when that happened, I didn't tell anybody, but I also didn't tell people when money started to look really
Mm.
good and we had a really healthy bank account. Talk to me a little bit about your money mindset.
Yeah. Yeah, this has been a big shift for me, particularly coming out of therapy land, because you do feel this pressure to not be a therapist to make money, that to be a therapist to help
Mm,
people. And so that in itself was a shift in my private practice. Um, but when I first started Maida Learning in 2014, we launched this major event, and it cost so much money. I outsourced a lot of things, and I lost a lot of money, and
right.
I didn't like talking about that. And I had some advisors back then who I've since moved on from, but who said to me, you'll never make money. Maida Learning won't ever make money. You need to stop running it and focus on your clinics. And it was heartbreaking for me because I really knew it was going to work and I just needed a bit more time. And so I felt like I could have, easily gone, oh yeah, okay, well, let's give up on that. But I didn't. I kept pushing through. And I've definitely had to overcome a lot of mindset things around money, mainly like looking at money and making sure, I couldn't have moved from solopreneur to where I am now without looking at what makes this business a success and how do I track that on a regular basis? What stats do I need to know on a monthly basis to know my business is where it needs to be? Getting lots of love with my profit and loss statement and looking at that on a regular basis. And yeah, it was really, I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the breadwinner for the family. And once I kind of also took that pressure off, things just tended to flow a little bit easier in terms of the finances and thinking about finances because I wasn't feeling so much stress around that.
Yeah, and it can be a scary thing to look at, especially when it's not looking great. But I'd rather know the reality than have my head in the sand for sure. And we can easily set ourselves up for failure when we are only focusing on the marketing or the bright shiny stuff, and we're not looking at the real bottom line of our business. There's something you said earlier about having had advisors that you've since let go of, people who really didn't believe in you. And as you know, I'm a big believer of having people around us who, one, ask more of us than we ask for ourselves, but also see the possibility in us that maybe we don't even see, and who really back us. And so talk about that in your life. Like, what do you do to surround yourself with people who keep you going in the direction that you want to go and who champion your vision?
Yeah, I have definitely spent time in my business journey around the wrong people. That's probably not the nicest word, but people that didn't believe in me. And I felt like I was trying to continually sell my story to them about this is where I'm going and this is what I want to do. And I just felt like they didn't believe in it or weren't on board. And that really affected my confidence. And I think probably the first time I came to the Reach retreat that you ran in Hawaii, I was definitely feeling really low on confidence and really vulnerable to share what I wanted to do, because in the past when I'd done that, people kind of either scoffed at it or told me I couldn't do it, or you're not going to make money doing that. So it's been really important for me to surround myself with people that believe in what I do, but also understand the journey of small business and what that entails, and the ebbs and flows and the knockbacks, and around people that can help, lift you back up when you go through the harder times, and also in an environment where I can then do that for other people in business. I can help lift others up, and that always makes you feel good and feel confident as well. So yeah, it's so important to me to be around people that get what I do, and I love being in the HerBusiness Network for that reason, and partaking in things that you've put on, because that's where the people are that get me, then that believe in me, and that's so important to what I do.
Well, thank you. And I love what you said about the flow-on effect, because then you're believing in your own clients and you're seeing the possibility in them, and it's a virtuous cycle. I want to talk about something that doesn't get often talked about, and that is this idea of taking risk as business owners. Because when we are fresh in business, we can be a little scrappy. There's not a lot to lose. But once we've built up multiple teams and maybe multiple sites and we've had some success, I know certainly for me, there have been times where I never play small. That's not what I mean. But I don't know that I'm as willing to risk. And so I wonder how that's been for you, because I'm sure there's women watching who, like you, you get to a point where you're comfortable and it's like, oh, I don't want to put this on the line.
Yeah. Early on, as a solopreneur, I was quite fine with taking risks, and I almost enjoyed it. I don't mind, grabbing hold of the shiny object over there and giving that a turn. And yeah, I was so naive. I think I didn't really consider, oh, this might not work out. Let's just give it a crack.
Mm.
And I've always been, visionary. I like to daydream about, things that could be possible. So early on, quite happy to take a risk. And I think that helped me learn a lot about, business and what I wanted to do. And then I kind of got to a point when things felt a bit stagnant. The money was hard, the cash flow was hard. We were kind of felt like we were continually growing, but we were growing and then not, and then growing and then not. And so I started to get a little bit daunted by taking risks, and I started to feel like I preferred to play it safe a little bit, and thought, I'll just kind of pull things down a little bit and we'll just, settle.
Mosey along. Here we go.
Mosey along. But that was boring and I didn't like it. And I fell out of love with my business because it didn't have that element to it of going forward. It was just stagnant, and I didn't like it. So I've had to get some courage back in to take some risks, and if I've got an idea, just think about it. And as I said, having the space and the buffer in my week allows me time to probably mull over decisions a little bit more and then put them into place. And I love the aspect of going forward, and it doesn't necessarily have to be major growth. And I think that's where some business owners get frightened by going forward or playing big a game, is they feel like it has to be, oh, now I've got to have this massive team and massive sites and all of that. It doesn't need to be like that. So yeah, I love I feel now that I've got things much more settled. I've been able to grow all three of my businesses at the same time, which is something I haven't done before. Before it was grow one and the others just sit there, hopefully not declining, and then go back and grab hold of one of them and go with that. So it was really hard to do all three at the same time. And now I feel finally I've got to that point. And that in itself gives me confidence to keep pushing ahead with my ideas.
Very exciting, Amy. And I know that you and I have had this conversation that when you have a vision that pulls you forward, then you're willing to take risk. When you're really clear on who you're serving and why you're doing what you're doing, and for you it's being able to give your family the lifestyle and yourself the lifestyle you want, then we're willing to take a risk. But it starts with having that very clear intention. One of the things. So were you going to say something?
I was just going to remark on what you said about the ideal client. Because when I first started Maida Learning, we would kind of our ideal client was really broad. Like we knew it was allied health private practice owners, but it was still quite broad. And over the years, we've really narrowed that. And I would agree with you that that's given me so much more confidence to take risks in the business, because I know the ideal client really well, and I feel like I've got a much better idea of what they need and what they're looking for.
That's very, very powerful. And if you're watching this, if you take anything away, there's been many, many nuggets, but that is core. Right now, we've just birthed into the world something called the 3 reflections, and it's about 3 pivotal disciplines that we can use to rewire our business. And it's really a reset. It's about taking the time to sit and reflect on what are the thoughts that are running me and running my business? What is it that I'm doing every day in my business that is either moving me forward or keeping me stuck? And then what are the mindset shifts that I might need to make? And just before we got on live, you mentioned to me that you have downloaded this free audio series, the 3 reflections. So I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot and say, so tell us how it was. Tell me what you enjoyed, because I do want to encourage women to take the time to sit and to reflect.
Yeah, I grabbed it straight away because I thought, oh, this is something I can listen to rather than having to read, a book or read something. So that was number one, tip for me, really good. But in the past, definitely when I was a solopreneur, if you'd asked me to reflect on things or, work on my mindset, I would absolutely poo-hooed it. I would have been like eye rolling and whatever, like, that's not for me. I'm too busy for that. I'm not into, anything woo-woo. But it's so, I've realized I wouldn't be where I am today without having put some reflection in place. And I find I'm always searching for things where I can stop and pause and think about where I'm going. And one of my quotes that's really instrumental for me and my husband in what we kind of plan for our life is, if you don't change where you're going, you'll end up where you're going. And it scares the hell out of me, that quote. And so I'm always looking at, are we headed where we want to be headed? That's really important to me. So your reflection journey that you did was amazing, and it came at just the right time because I was going away on one of my planning trips, and absolutely took so much away from it. And to have something that's guided, I find really good. Sometimes if I sit down to journal or reflect on something and it's just open blank space, I can go off in all sorts of directions. But the fact that it was really guided with those really specific questions was just brilliant. And I found that I could really focus on what I needed to focus on, which was important.
Well, thank you so much. And I
Yeah.
agree with you. I think that the more I'm in business, the more I realize that I need to stop and pause and reflect. Because
Yeah.
like you, it's like we're going so fast. We can end up and go, this isn't the life I imagined. This isn't the business I imagined. I'm not doing what I love every day. And so I do too. And Amanda is applauding. Yay. And so here is, let me see if I got this right. The3reflections.com is where you can get this free audio series. It is a guided visualization or meditation, if you like, that walks you through these 3 pivotal disciplines of how we're thinking, what we're doing in our business, and the mindset, which I think is the big one. And so go ahead and pick that up. It's free. It's available right now. And it's a great way to do a reset and really see where it is that you want to go in your business. Now, I'm very excited to hear that you're growing not 1, not 2, but 3 businesses and doing that simultaneously without burning out. In fact, you've had a big lifestyle shift in the last, I don't know, how long has it been since you did really shift what a working day or a working week looks like for you?
Probably getting up to a year now. That I've had a big shift. So I now working from home pretty much nearly full time. And that was one of my big goals a long time ago, was to get back some time with my family and be able to grow the business in the direction I wanted to without that meaning more work and time away from home. So yeah, we're doing it.
Congratulations.
Really
You're doing
exciting.
it, right? You woke up and you went in the direction that you wanted to go, and you picked yourself up, and here you are. I couldn't wish you anything more than the best of everything you want, Amy. You make a huge contribution to your customers. You always make a big contribution to me, and I value you being here and being able to share your journey, because I know there's a lot of women out there who have dreams to grow multiple businesses or to have more of the lifestyle that they want. And I feel like what you've contributed here today is really going to help them on their way. Is there anything you'd like to leave us with?
Yeah, there are a couple of things. I wanted to say, anyone who is not in the HerBusiness Network to very much please consider being in there. And I'm not, Susie hasn't told me to say that. I'm not. It's been a game changer for me. Definitely, I attribute a lot of my success to things I've learned in the network, and everything that you talk about, Susie, I have so much trust in, because I know I can go and implement that, and I know it's going to work. And you just have so much belief in all of us. So I just want to thank you for that. And the second tip I wanted to give to people is really working out, if you're wanting to grow, what are the success factors that you see as important for you, and not to be basing that on what everybody else is doing, but what's success look like for you, and how are you going to measure that? And that's been a really pivotal thing for me going forward, is knowing what I'm measuring and what success looks like. So for me, success is being able to work from home. That's a massive, success factor for me. And it's not always necessarily about, figures and stats. It can be just your way of being. So yeah. they're my
Thank
tips.
you. Wonderful tip. Thank you for the wonderful tips, and thank you for your endorsement of the HerBusiness Network. If you would like to join us, we are actually opening the doors for 4 days on the 16th of November. And somewhere here below, you will find a link if you want to be put on the wait list to do that. Thank you for joining me, Amy. Always good to
Thanks,
see you.
Susie.
Thank
No
you. Thanks,
worries.
everyone, for watching.